Hi everyone and welcome to our Neto Analytics Studio webinar series. I'm Felicity and I'm joined once again by Mark Miano from Glew today. Hey Mark, thanks so much for being here today.
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
So this is the final webinar in our Neto Analytics Studio series, and as a really nice way to round out the series, we'll be looking at the top 10 reports you can run for your business. But before we get started, I'll just run through the usual housekeeping. So if you can just pop a comment into the chat box to let me know that you can hear me, that would be great. And if you've got any questions that pop up as we go, just ask them in the chat box. As per usual, we do have Curtis and Hayley on hand from Neto to answer your questions, and we will be doing a live Q&A at the end. And lastly, as we always do, we'll record the webinar on video, and we'll send it out to you after the webinar as well as pop it on our YouTube channel. So that's all the housekeeping out of the way. So as I mentioned, this is the final webinar in our series, our Neto Analytics Studio webinar series, which we've been running because we recently launched the Neto Analytics Studio platform to all of our Neto customers. And the Neto Analytics Studio platform is an advanced analytics, automation, and reporting tool that integrates seamlessly with Neto and all of your e-commerce, inventory, product, and customer data. It's pretty powerful. And the platform, of course, is powered by a technology called Glew. And Glew are known for their world-class analytics software. And that's why we're joined by Mark from Glew today. So Mark joined us for our second webinar, if any of you attended the one on lifetime value. And he's a VP of sales at Glew. So Mark, I'd love to just hear a little bit more about you for the viewers today that weren't at the other webinar.
Yeah, well, thank you, Felicity. My name is Mark. I'm our VP of Sales here at Glew. I'm from America. You can tell from my accent. I've never been to Australia before. Went to a place called Vanderbilt University here, and since graduating have really been selling and helping companies understand analytics around their businesses all my life. I used to work for a company called Meltwater, which was a marketing, social media, and news analytics software. And then I got the opportunity to help start this company called Glew because there's a huge need for it, obviously with the real boom in e-commerce, and here we are.
Awesome. That's great, Mark. And of course, for those of you who don't know me, or even those who do, I'm Felicity Miller and I'm the content marketing specialist here at Neto. So today we are pretty much going to jump right in and get Mark to give us, go into Neto Analytics Studio, and he's going to tell us all about it's actually his personal top 10 reports that are great ways to manage your business better, whether it's increasing efficiency or saving money or boosting your profits. We'll, as I said, have time for some question and answers at the end. And then I'll quickly tell you how you can get started with Neto Analytics Studio if you haven't already. All right, that's your turn, Mark. Over to you.
Great. Well, awesome. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of take over the screen here. I'm very excited to present the 10 reports this morning. These are kind of like the heavy hitter necessities to think about on a regular basis. So we're going to walk through how to create a report first, right? That would be very helpful. And then after that, we're going to go through all 10 in a very fast pace, but at a pace with maybe a little bit of case studies thrown in there as well. So if you're looking at my screen, it's really first important to note the 3 dots in the upper right-hand corner of every single chart and table. This does not just apply to highlights, guys. You can actually do this throughout the whole entire system. Remember the triangle that we talked about at my on episode 2 that Felicity referred to, that we use to create metrics in Glew, right? Your revenue or your numbers or your financials, right, which is from your cart or your Neto system. Time, which you'll find that date picker in the upper right-hand corner. And then, of course, Google Analytics, which is also found in those 3 dots. So if I wanted to create a report arbitrarily before we get started, let's say I liked what I saw here, right? Or maybe I wanted to see this on a weekly basis and maybe over the past 30 days. Okay, maybe I want to see that on a regular basis. And maybe by channel. Again, I'm just trying to go into how to create a report, not the optimal reports yet, right? So if I liked what I saw, I could add add metric to a report, and let's name this, actually add metric to a new report, and let's name this, edit title and description, Mark's report with the Neto team, right? Example.
Very nice.
Click enter, and now when I create this, I can find that report in the My Report section, Mark's report with the Neto team. And this is a great way for you to collaborate with your other users because you get unlimited users. So note that's pretty cool. And let's say I wanted to schedule this report now. So as opposed to just saving it, I can actually schedule it to be sent immediately later. But what my favorite is reoccurring. We're going to talk about how to set these up weekly or monthly, which is typically what you want to do depending on the type of report. And we can add case studies in here, messages. We can send this to investors or whomever you like inside or outside the company. And maybe we do this for certain time periods. So pretty cool stuff. We're talking about creating and automating reporting. We like to think of Glew as additive, right? When you like something, save it. If you want to send it to someone and share it because there's value there, then send it and program it and let it do the work for you. So if we're going to start with reporting, the first report we're going to talk about is the overall LTV of the store. If I come into customers and lifetime value, you'll find this number at the top here by lifetime value KPIs. We want to look at lifetime value. In terms of the frequency, I think 30 days ought to do it. But for the sake of demonstrating why this report is valuable, we want to think about what the goals are of the e-commerce business, right? We want to find customers that are going to want to spend lots of money with us. And then once we find those customers, we want to upsell those people and help them realize the full potential from a lifetime value standpoint, right? So we want this line up here to be moving from left to right up in this direction. We don't want it too spiky. We don't want it too flat. We want that nice even movement. And let's think about why. It's these two forces at the bottom, right? We have the repeat purchasers pushing the lifetime value of your store up over time, right? Let's say I'm a Kleenex customer and I want to, and I'm 30, right? Someone who's 30 will have a much lower lifetime value than someone who is 80, right? They've consumed less. So time is on your side as well as your strategy upselling your customers. But we also need new customers, right? Every new customer entering your store has a lifetime value of 0 to begin with. So the new customers are going to keep this line down from spiking up too high. So if you see a lot of purple down here, that means you're going to see a spike in that line. You see a lot of blue, it means you're going to see a downward trend. We want to see it going upwards. Look at this monthly, and you want to look at the slope of this line to understand where you're going to make the biggest bang for your business. Now, the second one we're going to look at is revenue by device. Okay, so if I come over here to highlights, I'm going to want to look at this one weekly. And what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to use the Google filter. And let's make the device mobile. And what I want to do on a weekly basis is understand on what devices am I capturing my revenue. You'll notice that some of the most successful e-commerce companies understand that their purchases are made on the mobile device and even invest in mobile apps. Okay, I work with a company called Peach and Lily out here in the New York area. It's a Korean cosmetic company. What they wanted and what they found out is they were growing about 30% year over year, but their desktop year over year growth was -1%. Their tablet growth was -10%, and their mobile growth was +40%. It's a really important metric to know. So what I'll do is I'll say the device is mobile, add metric to a report. Let's do it Mark's report with the Neto team. And I'm going to repeat that process, right, for each of these different devices. And when I come in here, I'll have a nice, neat, clean report with all three mobile, desktop, and tablet at my disposal, delivered weekly. The next one you want to look at is report 3, is your at-risk customer base. Remember the lapse point. There's been other seminars on lapse point and timing optimization. What we want to ensure is that the customers who are at risk and 80% of the way through their lapse point, what we want to do is ensure that they don't pass their lapse point, and we offer them some type of incentive or something of that nature to do what we can to play the numbers game, right? If I have an at-risk first purchase customer, I would not incentivize or push in some way that first purchase customer to buy a second time. That's not the purpose of the incentive for that first purchase customer. The purpose is to get the person to buy a third time all on their own without you having to do anything. It's very important that you understand that. So we want to make sure we have this delivered probably monthly. We don't want to burn these people, but we want to make sure we squeeze more juice out of the fruit, for example, bad metaphor, before we move on. The next one we're going to talk about is product segment breakdowns. If I go over into products and I go to segments, now you will have to do this for each segment, right? You will have to add it to its own fresh report, okay? It takes 5 minutes, but it's worth it. The reason I do this is because, I mean, the more SKUs you have, the more you have to worry about optimizing the way you're using your capital, right? At least your material capital that you're selling. I work with a company called, it sells olives, all right? They found via getting this report on a weekly basis that the most refunded product of theirs, which is loading right here, was their most profitable product. It was a blue cheese olive. And the jars weren't sealing in the manufacturing plant, which was really helpful to know before they found out from their customer base via social media or something crippling. So I think that's a really good example of ensuring that you're getting updates on a carousel view, your products that are top or most abandoned, or the superlative versions of your products and your product segments, having that delivered weekly. Report 5 is advertising optimization. You'll find this in customers, lifetime value, like where we began. But what we're going to do instead is we're actually going to look at your channels ranked by lifetime value. I have this sent monthly, okay? It's on report monthly. And the reason I have it sent monthly is people typically allocate their advertising spend monthly. I mean, if you do it more often than that, then plan accordingly, okay? But if you're doing it monthly, that's why I've done monthly. You're going to be moving your efforts out of these lower LTV efforts, and you're going to place them in your higher LTV efforts. It's as simple as that, all right? Don't just be channel dependent though. Understand and remember, it's the strategy that you put into the channel. It's not the channel itself. The next one we're going to look at is net profit by channel. If I go to performance, net profit by channel is this one. This is your report card. Send it at the end of the month. You don't study for a test by studying your report card, right? If you don't like what you see in your report card here that's sent at the end of the month, you're not going to chase revenue, right? You're not going to just go to Google AdWords because that's where you get your most revenue from. If you don't like what you see here, you segment out your customer base, obey your lapse point, use Glew's basket analysis. You need to practice the right methodologies and base your decisions based on lifetime value, like we just came from. And you measure the performance of your decisions on here at the end of the month. Report 7 is your customers broken out by the number of purchases, customers, future value. You're going to see a pie chart on your customers broken down by the number of purchases they've made with you. The more you assign importance to purchase frequency, the more important this will be for you, right? So if I'm selling refrigerators, this will not be as important to me. If I'm selling makeup or clothing, this is important to me. You need to ensure that your purchase frequency is growing, and these two pieces are getting smaller. Report 8 is your timing optimization report. The way that you want to go ahead and program that is you create a report on customer status right underneath here monthly, and you just want to make sure you understand what type of quote unquote month it is. The bigger your at-risk customer base, the more we're going to want to retain, right? If I have a big at-risk customer base here, it's cheaper to retain than to acquire. So we're going to make sure that we retain, right? Retention, get the lifetime value curve that we began with. In that case, we want to make sure that we're pushing that lifetime value curve up. If I have a huge active customer base, let's say I'm Manchester United, okay, and I just won the Premier League, and everyone's buying my crap in England. Well, I'm not going to market to people in England. I'm going to go and pick up bandwagon fans because people in England are already buying. That makes 0 sense. So that's why I have it sent monthly, is so you can use your time wisely based on time. Report 9 is going to be customer segments. So from here, we used to run a consultancy before we, really took off, and the e-commerce world really took off. And when we ran that consultancy, I would actually just look at this grid for, 60 seconds to 90 seconds, maybe 3 minutes before a call. And I don't say that out of hubris or being cocky or whatever. It's more of, there's so much data in customer segment performance. It's incredible. Being able to rank your specific segments against one another will help you. Doing this by LTV, AOV, orders, and customers will help you understand your strengths and your weaknesses and how to compensate for those weaknesses. So for example, I work with a company that sells audiobooks, and for her, we looked at this the segment page when it was fully loaded, and we saw a number of things. Number one, her repeat purchase customer base was incredible. It was nuts. Number two, she was really, really struggling acquiring first purchase customers in the grand scheme of things. And number three, she'd hardly ever discounted before, which was great. That's awesome that she doesn't have to discount. But what we came up with together was like a referral program where she would go to her strong repeat customer base, let them know that if they got and recruited a separate email address to buy an audiobook, that they would get one for free. And what she did was cracked the code for her business, right? She used her really loyal fans in order to go find more fans like them, which doesn't sound so profound and out loud, but think about it if you hadn't done that before, right? You're trying to grow your business and crack the plateau of that next ceiling. So something to think about when you're looking at your segments page. Report 10 is a net profitability report. I have this sent weekly, performance, and then you're going to look at this one up here. It's your revenue minus your advertising spend and your cost of goods sold. And another report card-esque type view of your business to see, at the end of the day, what's the cash you're bringing in, as opposed to having to do the math on your own. Again, a report card type report. And Felicity, that's kind of it in terms of the, just the cream at the top of where to begin and how to think about your reporting. But yeah, I think it'd be a good idea to maybe open up for some questions and see what people wanted to find out.
Yeah, sure. So if anyone wants to put some questions into the chat box, then we'll have some time for Mark to answer them. And Mark, thank you so much for presenting all of those reports. I guess the thing that I really like and that really stood out to me is that, there are so many different things that you can do when you're marketing your e-commerce store. You can make offers and invite a friend like the audiobook company, but by running these reports and really, really looking at the data, you've got data to back up the decisions you're making. You can trial and error things and that's great, but you've actually got the data there, and that's what we really want. All right, well, I haven't seen any questions come into the chat box. Mark, was there any other sort of thing that you can go through, or are there any particular case studies or examples that really stand out?
I think the way to think about it is, explore. That's a good question. Where I would start is thinking of segmentation. Okay, so a lot of the reporting native in Glew is great, but what we want to do is treat each business differently. And the way that you're going to be able to do that with Glew is understanding how to use the segments inside the tool across not just customers, but orders, products, and inventory. So if you're looking at my screen, for instance, let's take one exercise while we're waiting on some questions. Is you might remember one of the reports that we were going to run is an at-risk customer base report. We want to make sure those people don't churn, right? But in order to do that, you might think that you want to discount, but discounting is a great way to go out of business. So we don't want to, if we're going to discount, we need to be smart about it. And a good way of thinking about that is maybe discounting products that are profitable to discount. So if I go into inventory, maybe I have a lead time of like, maybe it takes me, I sell t-shirts, right? Maybe it takes me 30 days to get a fresh batch of t-shirts in. Well, how about I come in here and look at a 30-day window, and let's wait for it to load. And I'll come in here and I'll say, okay, create a segment. And maybe I'll say discount worthy options. And maybe these would be things with a sell-through rate, meaning the demand. And if you don't know what these are, you need to know it if you're running your business. So maybe the sell-through is less than or equal to 75%, so I know no one wants the product. And maybe I also want that holding cost, which is the amount of cash I have wrapped up in the product, greater than or equal to maybe 10 grand a lot for me. And maybe I create this segment. And every time it's time for me to activate my customer base, I don't have to think or do the math. I have to think. I don't have to do the math. I just go to inventory, click on discount worthy options. Maybe I have different tiers of discount worthy options just pre-programmed for myself. And I have it off the shelf, ready to go. And I can hit the ground running by activating my at-risk customer base one last time before those guys get churned. So again, I encourage you to look at those reports, and then maybe I have that sent to me monthly, right? Like, make it additive. Don't make more work for yourself would be the last thought I'd share with the team here.
All right, we've got a couple of questions coming in. Oh yes, Andre, we will be doing a copy of the 10 reports. Keep an eye out for that one on the blog. So yeah, you don't have to be scribbling down notes really fast. We will put this onto paper for you. And we have one from Ryan. Where will you see the export to MailChimp option in reports? So Mark, would you be able to quickly show us that for Ryan?
The export to MailChimp. You mean, does Ryan mean push to MailChimp?
I imagine so. So just taking a bit of an assumption here, how would he export the segments to MailChimp?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, so for you, Ryan, there are two ways to get information into MailChimp. And this is really important to know because this is sometimes where people get a little bit confused, which I don't blame them. This is one thing that we're actually developing. There's two types of segments. There's custom segments and there's predefined segments. Custom segments have to be exported and imported into MailChimp by themselves. So you go to customer list, you create the segment that you want to create, and then you export that information via clicking, hold on a minute, bear with me, team. Export as CSV, boom, you got it right there. That's for the custom segmentation. For the predefined ones though, these things can rock and roll directly into MailChimp, right? These are awesome. Let's say I want to get my active customers, there'll be a push to MailChimp button here, Ryan. And when you click the push to MailChimp button, next to each respective segment that you want to have pushed in there, we'll update those every night. So for example, if I was a first purchase customer yesterday, and then I bought, Glew will move me into the repeat purchase customer segment tomorrow. And there's that push to MailChimp button right there. I'm not going to push it, but there it is. Remember too that, yeah, so that should answer your question. And I'll stop there.
And Mark, if you are using a different email marketing platform, obviously you can just follow the first step that you showed where you just export the list and then import it into your platform. That's right?
Yes, that is correct.
Awesome. Well, the chat has been pretty quiet today. I haven't seen any more questions come through, so I guess that means that everybody knows everything they need to know.
Great. Well, I'm glad I was helpful and thorough.
And of course, there are lots of resources on our website for Glew, and also on your website. And we're doing blog posts, and the webinars are all up on YouTube and that sort of thing. So if anyone ever needs any help, it is out there. So we've done the Q&A, and now just quickly how to get started on Neto Analytics Studio. So for those of you who aren't on it and are keen to get started with it, the Neto Analytics Studio is available on our Neto 360 plan, and so that's a new plan that we've introduced recently. It's fully featured. It's pretty much got everything that you could want in Neto. So there's advanced inventory and Neto Ship, pick and pack, and access to 3 sales channels. So a sales channel is your e-commerce store. It's if you're selling on eBay, or if you're selling on Amazon Australia, or if you're selling via point of sale, which you can do in store or at markets or trade shows on the go. And so we will pop up a link in the chat box that'll take you to a page where you can read a bit more about the Neto 360 pricing plan, and also upgrade if you're keen to get straight into Neto Analytics Studio. If you are keen to test it out, we have a demo version. So that's available right from within your cPanel. So Mark was using the demo version today, and as you can see, it's populated with a bunch of data, so you can really get in there, play around, have a look, and familiarize yourself with it. And that is everything from me and everything from Glew as well. It was the last webinar in our series, so thank you so much, Mark, and thank you to everyone else from Glew who's been with us for this series. And that's it. So I hope everyone has a fantastic day. Keep an eye out for the email later on, and head over to YouTube if you would like to see a replay.